Rawr.
angry about taxes.
When did we all get this dumb? Almost only counts in horseshoes, hand grenades, and nuclear warfare. I don't see any bodies, so it doesn't count.
I'm angry about taxes.
I'm the chef. I want to hear one thing. Yes, chef. Come on, man. Use your brain. The Why I'm Angry podcast starts now. All right, it starts now. So, it's the Why I'm Angry podcast. Now. It is just the chef tonight. Sorry, guys. You'll have to muddle through somehow without the rest of them. If you're one of the rest of them, I don't know why you're not on. Get on. But yeah. So, chef here tonight. And we're going to talk about some chef things. We got the James Beard Awards finalists finally. We got, just the random, earthquake, the bird flu fears, Amazon's cloud, some atheists talking about, Christianity, some things like that. So, let's get into it. Remember, follow, like, and share. Free way to support us. Give us a 5-star or 1-star review. We'll get you into a drawing for a t-shirt. What's the rest of it? Subscribe at our website, whyimangry.com. And for $1.25, if you use Angry Patriot as the code, $1.25 gets you ad-free podcast. So if you're listening to this podcast and an ad pops up every about 10, 15 minutes, that can be erased if you just go to the website for $1.25 a month, no ads. And we'll send you each month a email with some updates, different things that we're doing, a promo code for merchandise, things like that. So get on for just $2.50. You get all of the everyday updated ads, or not ads, but articles about what we're looking at, about how different things that's tickling our fancy, headlines, things that we've looked through, little articles that are funny. You get the videos, so all of the extra videos that we do that are not live go up. And so eventually they become podcasts and stuff like that. But you get to see them ahead of time before they become a podcast. So just a little thank you for your support type thing, exclusivity. And then you also get to get access to our blog page where we put the podcast up. And then you can actually read through the articles as we go through them. Sometimes that's advantageous. Find some stuff that we missed. Laugh about the same things that we're laughing about, things of that nature. So get on, support us, help us out. Here in the Freestyle Man Cave studio, we don't have big sponsors, so we just need your help. All right, let's get into it. Headlines today. Looks like Taiwan earthquake aftermath. They are looking at 9 people are dead, 1,000 people are injured, which is a lot. Scores of people are trapped in rubble after a 7.4 magnitude earthquake struck off the island's eastern coast Wednesday morning, local time. Wednesday morning, local time. They didn't give me a time. It's funny. The casualties are expected to rise as rescue efforts turn into recovery efforts. The earthquake is the strongest to hit Taiwan since 1999, when a 7.7 earthquake killed roughly 2,400 people. So, I mean, they're at least doing a little bit better than that. Hopefully, they put in some safety precautions. I'm sure China is going to rush to help so that they can be part of the country's aid program, so that they can help out and get another foothold into the country. Um, you know, Taiwan's kind of on that precipice of becoming a Chinese, full on Chinese state. And it was funny because I was listening to somebody was talking about how some people are just like just get just become they're just saying separate countries, separate systems for the same country, type thing. And then somebody else is like, yeah, how good did that work in Hong Kong? How right now in Hong Kong, they've lost like 40 or 50% of their tech industry, has just fled the country because of lack of anonymity. The Chinese government has pretty much taken over any you know any kind of security risks or anything that they would have had. They've kind of come in and taken you know whatever information they've wanted. So anybody in the tech sphere that is not Chinese is running for the hills. So, but that's the threat here at in Taiwan. And honestly, if they if this is bad enough to cripple the economy in Taiwan, you can't you can see the writing on the wall that they need the help. Is the Biden administration going to help them? I mean, we're slaves to China at this point. Anyhow, if China says stay away, I don't see this administration really like latching on and being like, no, we're they're a separate entity and keep them safe. I mean, at best, I see them, you know, providing some weapons and saying, you know, here you go, fight the battle the best you can, kind of Ukraine style. Um, Maybe even less Ukraine style, more, you know, whatever we've done to help Israel, or whatever little we've done to help Israel, um, while secretly pushing Hamas's agenda and allowing them to be whoever they want to be, all that they can be in the army. So yeah, I don't see that. Yeah, I see China using this to strengthen their alliances with Taiwan and push closer into full Chinese state. So, nearly 2 million chickens were slaughtered earlier this week after a number of the animals tested positive for bird flu, at a Texas egg production plant. Um, Calling his latest effort by agriculture companies to ward off the spread of the virus, which has affected more than 82 million birds across the U.S. since 2022. You want to know why your chicken prices are going up with eggs and all of that? This is why. Because they're having to kill millions and millions of birds. The virus is a variant of the influenza A, the family that includes strains responsible for seasonal epidemic flu in humans. The proteins on the H5N1 surface correspond to receptors found in many bird species. An infection in humans who lack such receptors is rare, and typically results in mild symptoms globally. Fewer than 500 human deaths have been linked to H5N1, which begs the issue. You know, is there a way that we can clean the eggs off, or is it in the actual egg yolks or in the actual egg itself, or is it just they've tested the outside or they tested the birds and they found a few birds in the group that had it. I know precautionary wise, that's a big. It's better to take them all out than but it says Cal-Maine Foods, the nation's largest egg producer, said the affected poultry represents less than 4% of the flock. The second ever human case reported in the U.S. was confirmed in Texas this week. So, it says that case was actually incidentally contracted from infected cattle. So they got the bird flu from the cows. Yeah. So I mean, again, it's just it is less than 4%, but you're definitely going to see an impact on your bill. On your grocery bill. Anywhere where I mean and in all honesty, farmers run a razor thin margin anyway. Most of them are losing money except for the subsidies that they get from the government. And honestly, that most of the time pays just enough for them to continue to get the loans to go to the next year. So, I mean, it's nothing to have a $1 million operation for a farm, but that $1 million operation really costs, somewhere around, $1.2 million. And every year they're getting, a $500,000 subsidy to pay with the difference and put the down payment on the next year's seeds and cattle or herd or whatever. So, Amazon confirmed yesterday it was laying off hundreds of employees from its cloud computing division. The layoffs impact sales and marketing roles as well as employees focused on technology at its physical stores. At its physical stores come amid a broader company pivot on grocery store strategy. Earlier this week, Amazon announced it was ending just walkout programs. Well, I wonder why that is. Which is used in over half of its more than 40 Amazon Fresh stores nationwide. The program allowed customers to skip checkout lines by relying on automated cameras and sensors, and was reportedly supplemented by more than 1,000 Indian workers reviewing and labeling transactions. This week, Amazon said it will pivot to dash carts, whereby a screen and scanner in grocery carts will allow shoppers to manually scan their items as they shop. You mean these scanners and different cameras and stuff, they mess up and you get your groceries for free? Who could have guessed that? I mean, we can't even get, like, I had this portal, and every time I said, what do you think about the election or something like that, it would pop up and say, the 2024 election, blah, blah, is on November 2nd, and blah, blah, blah. And it would just go on and on about misinformation and different things like that. So, I wasn't even talking to it. I didn't say portal or anything like that. I just literally said, what I just asked the question on the podcast even. And there it was popping up. So just it's a weird pivot that they're going to, they're going to lay off a bunch of cloud employees, but at the same time, with AI being what it is, and AI making leaps and bounds on its viability and stuff like that, you're going to see a lot of companies that used to use people for moderators and things of that nature that won't use them anymore because they have AI and they can AI search through the intent on a sentence. Was that sentence used aggressively, or was that saying something like that? Did they use a racial slur, or did they common phrases that are made derogatory? So you're going to see that a lot late in the next 2 to 3 years. You're also seeing AI working in McDonald's and Wendy's in their ordering, where like I went up and I went through the drive-through. I had ordered online, which is also probably hurting the employees at whatever restaurant, is that you can order online. You don't have to put in an order with them. Pulled around. They asked me if I was the automated voice asked if I was using a code. I said yes. I gave them the code, and the automated voice then said, "Pull forward, Aaron." Blah blah blah. So, and then it sent me an email saying, or a text or whatever, saying a message on my app or whatever, saying that congratulations, I was part of the AI test products or something like that. So just expect that if you're gonna if the minimum wage and people's salaries on that level are going to go up to match a livable wage, that you're going to get kids, for one, aren't going to get jobs. And we've me and my wife have talked about that a lot, how you know kids these days coming into jobs at different places that maybe at one point wouldn't have been their first job, because they would have had like a fast food job, or they would have worked at Kroger, or a grocery store, or in a shopping mall somewhere, which we don't have all that much anymore. But they but this their first job now is supposed to be kind of almost their career job coming out of college. And then when they do that, they're they're kind of coming into a job where they don't know how they haven't made the mistakes that they would have made as a kid in a high school job. Oh, I can't get to work on time. You know, we were laughing about somebody that didn't wear a shirt, and to their job and stuff like that. And you know it's just the standard skills that we take for granted now, like, if granted now, you have to tell them now. We I ran a food truck, and luckily I had some decent employees that came in that had some experience and things like that. But we looked for those people that had food experience, and even beyond that, before, when I was in other industries, you know I looked for people who had been in the food truck, or had been in the food industry, not food trucks, but who had been in the food industry, because I looked for people who could solve a problem. Most of the time when you're in the food industry, or you're in as a young person, those jobs that you're in, you learned how to critically think and how to solve certain problems. Whether that problem was, how do I sell a blah 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 to a customer, or it was you know, how do I get out of work as much as possible so that, or it was, when you're busy, how do you accelerate getting things done faster? And so, different things like that that we get, that if you don't have that first job where you get fired or you get, you do something, you're allowed to do something dumb and get written up. Guess where you're going to do that? You're going to do that in your career, in your first, if you're a lawyer and your first job is that law office, guess where you're going to make your mistakes? At the law office. And you know, how if you got if I got to 27 or 25 and I hadn't worked a job or I hadn't worked, you know, then and I went into that first job and got fired for doing something dumb like how much would I really want to, how devastated would you be and how motivated would you to be to get back in that job? No wonder we're seeing, you know, people burn out and they're burning out of the jobs that are supposed to be their dream jobs. So, I don't know. I think with all of this going on and AI and stuff like that, you're just going to you're just going to see a lot more issues that you wouldn't, there's going to be new issues that we have to go through with this generation that we didn't have to fight or go through before this. So, I think I think AI has some unintended consequences that you don't realize that will pop up. And we'll just see. We'll see how things go. We'll plan accordingly and go from there. But this cloud deal, it makes a ton of sense that you're going to lose a lot of employees, or a lot of employees are going to be, you know, let go at different places because of, you know, AI. You're just and then this, you used to have people who were monitoring the restaurant, the grocery stores, and so those people no longer have to monitor because it's going to be more of a scan thing. You have one person at the grocery, or you have, one of the people that is going to, make sure it gets opened, make sure it's not getting, somebody's not running in and robbing the place or whatever. And even if they do run in and rob the place, there's no money there. And there's also, it's just going to be an observe and report, so you're just going to call the police and be like, hey, I need an officer. And if you're in Pittsburgh, well, you're screwed. So they're not going to come. You'll get an investigator 2 days later or a day after or whatever. Because the Pittsburgh mayor, I think it was almost 2 weeks ago because we haven't been on 100%, announced a couple weeks back that he was going to reduce the force. Let me see if I can find it here real quick. He was going to reduce the force down to like 20 people, and they were only going to respond to dangerous calls in progress. So let me see. Let's see if I can find it. And so they're only going to respond to those that are, those crimes that are super in progress. So that leaves, thefts, unless you're at gunpoint at this moment, you know, they're gonna they'll when they get a chance, they'll send an investigator out. They'll assign an investigator to it, and based on when that investigator can go out is when he'll be at your place to figure out whether but beyond that, they're just gonna reduce the force down to a small amount of people who can. Okay, here's the criticism of his redeploying staff. So Chief Larry Scirotto, it's a great name. I bet he got mercilessly made fun of in school. He's sitting down for the first time since ordering the changes. The chief told KDKA TV that his reorganization is enhancing the public safety and the wellness. Since his swearing in ceremony 10 months ago, Scirotto has been tasked with doing more with less, so he's employed data analytics to maximize officers' effectiveness. We've been talking about this since the day they hired me. He said, I just don't think people realize we'd actually execute it. The sweeping redeployment changes when officers work and how they work. Now responding only to priorities in progress, emergency calls like shootings, robberies, and referring non-emergencies like harassment and theft. So harassment is no longer emergency. Don't worry if that harassment ends up in you being killed, because you know stalkers are the nicest people on earth. Um, and 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 if the theft is already done, don't worry about that. The longer it takes to kind of work it out, the more likely you're going to find the person. I'm sure that's how the data set shows. Since data shows those most serious crimes occur during the day, he's shifted more officers into that time slot while decreasing those overnight. And to maximize those nighttime patrols, he's ordered desk officers to leave the station houses. So there's nobody in the station. From 3 a.m. to 7 a.m., there aren't desk officers at all. In the past, there would have been, but I need those 6 officers out on patrol operations. So they're answering calls instead of sitting there. Who's answering the call? Like, is it all going to 911 now, or are we now overloading our 911 with non-emergency calls? Scirotto denies reports that as few as a dozen officers cover the city on some nights, saying there are more officers on the streets at those times. He says the redeployments have allowed him to create high impact special units to focus on problems downtown and on the south side, which is a bad area, while staffing violence prevention and fugitive units. We are doing our job to keep the city safe, the residents within it, our officers, Scirotto said. To do that, you have to make informed decisions. Like the manager of a business or a sports team, Scirotto says he constantly reviews the data and analytics to see if the changes are effective and where shifts are needed. So far, he believes it is paying off. You're doing the best with the team you have. So it says the host, and he says, I have a great team of men and women. of this bureau do fantastic work. The bureau has 780 officers, far less than the budgeted 850. While Chief Scirotto wants more, he says with these changes, he has the number he needs to keep the city safe. So basically, they've gone to a a system where like now you have to judge the intent of a person. So if harassment, if you're getting harassed and they don't come to they don't come to check it out, you know, we that's because they assess that the situation didn't need someone to come. I mean, what level of harassment? I mean, obviously, if you're harassed with a weapon, um, then maybe that seems more dangerous. But it's you know, if that what style of weapon then is harassment? It deems necessary for harassment. Um, is is harassment is it only a weapon that is going to be deemed as bad enough for harassment? I'm kind of looking up now, trying to look up now numbers on how people are harassed and that. Um, that was employment harassment. So I understand like here are ways that can be that are considered street harassment: comments, requests, demands, commenting on physical appearance, yada yada. Continuing to talk to someone after they've asked you to leave them alone, flashing, following or stalking, groping, intentionally invading personal space. They're a space invader. Persistent requests for someone's name, number, information, public indecency, touching, sexist, racist, homophobic remarks, things of that nature, showing pornographic images without someone's consent, staring. Staring is now considered harassment. Makes me uncomfortable. I don't like it. I'm calling the police. Taking photos without consent, telling someone to smile. Telling someone to smile is now harassment. Obviously, upskirting. Um, using a mirror to look up someone's skirt, not just taking the photo. Or whistling. So I guess if it was a weapon, it would be considered assault more than harassment, I guess. So they didn't say they weren't going to, you know, cover assault cases, but stalking does become serious at some point. And I just think you're towing a fine line when you're not going out to these places, when you're not responding as quick as possible to some of these laws that have been broken. Because like I said, you most of the time a crime committed is they find the perpetrator in a short amount of time. The longer that the investigation stretches out, the the more likely it's not going to be solved. So it just I understand we can do more with less, and I understand that more people people, manning phones are, just wasted time or whatever, wasted people or whatever. Um, but how many people, like, are we cutting ourselves too thin? Pittsburgh's a decent sized city, and, I lived there for a year or so, and I didn't have a lot of issues. I lived downtown, and we did have a bank robbery where the guy got away on a BMX bike and got in a shootout with the police. It wasn't like he just, like, smashed, grabbed, rode off on a bike, and to be honest, the bike was probably what got him away because, traffic is terrible. It's not quite like New York City where you've got people on the sidewalks nonstop, like it's just a crowd herding down the street in on the sidewalks and stuff. So you could actually get like I did a lot of rollerblading and stuff like that, and so I could get across town pretty fast. Um, if I stayed off of the actual streets and stuff, if I stayed on the sidewalks and that, um, I could get down the street pretty fast without bothering anybody. Plus, everything's a hill in Pittsburgh. You're either going up a hill or down a hill, and there's nothing flat in downtown. It's bridges and hills and all of that, so you can get moving pretty quick and all of that. So, but it's one of those deals where you know the more and more they talk about it, the more and more it looks like defund the police, change, and hopefully it is a change that is better, where we're not, maybe we're not, fighting the police as much. What would be, what, I hesitate to say this, but what might be more advantageous is to go to a privatized police where, they worry about the city and making it better. And, customer service rates and things like that could get them fired, and so that they treat people better than, they're trained to treat, the customers or the people of the city in a better way. I mean, it comes back to, the government doesn't care about you beyond the dollars and cents that you either make them or that they can use to get elected the next time so that they can continue to make dollars and cents in the government. I mean, the power that they have is what is what they use those dollars for. I mean, so once it gets past a certain level, they're just using that, whatever resources they have to get reelected and continue to be in office and to continue to have, wield the power that they have to, you know, make a living that is stable. And, when you're reelected or you're elected every 4 years or you're up for election every 4 years, you have to do something to keep, it coming back. You just got to keep on trucking on it. And so that's why you see at election times, you see, stimuluses, and you see better gas prices, and you see, different projects that they say are coming out, or you see, promises and that. And so, you know, that's as I would say, I'm probably more of a libertarian, where I would like the government to run less and private citizens to run more. But that's what it comes down to. That's what I mean. Who cares about you more than you do? So if they put the power back in your hands, then you take responsibility for you. But if they take the power out of your hands, I mean, obviously, then you don't even have the ability to take responsibility. Like, I don't, if it weren't for job, you know, companies having insurance programs, the government would own I mean, they already own about 50% of the economy with the insurance programs. And so now we rely on the government for insurance. And I was even listening this week to somebody that was saying that when they first started Social Security, the Social Security was it was set up for an age that would outlive men. So that because the average death rate of a man was around 65 or 68, they made the Social Security that age so to take care of the women who at that time didn't have jobs because they were taking care of the home, because have a you could actually have a home, own property, get to the American dream with one income. And that income didn't have to come from a super high-end college education. You didn't have to have a bachelor's, a master's, a doctorate, summa cum laude, nothing. You didn't do any of that. You either found a trade or you went and did something. So you found a trade, you worked in a factory as a tech, you worked you did electrical, you did plumbing, you did, whatever you did, and that because you worked hard, you made the money you needed to take care of your family. If you wanted more, you picked up a second job somewhere. But most of the time, and this is the thing that they don't tell you, is most of the time those people work 9 to 5 jobs, even in plumbing, even in electrical, even in, nothing was open past 7, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. You know, the local pub was open till 9 or 10 at the latest. 10 seemed pretty scandalous. It's time to go home and eat dinner and things of that nature. The only people out in the bar towards 10 o'clock were the ones that might have been functioning alcoholics, or were single and ready to mingle. So the things that we've gone the power that we've given to the government, in 2020, we extended that power even farther by giving them the power to shut down our businesses and to tell us when, to set up a curfews and tell us when we could and couldn't, open and stuff. And, honestly, some of that hasn't even come back. You don't have 24-hour, you know, big chain box stores. Your Walmarts and things of that nature are not open past, 10, 11 o'clock anymore, 12 o'clock, which you can say is good or bad. When I worked second and third shift, I really enjoyed going to the grocery at, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, because there was nobody else there. I could walk through the place without getting run over or someone stopping in the middle to figure out what they're doing in the middle of the aisle. And, I didn't have to secretly plot my revenge on the people of Walmart or Kroger or whoever. And, then take it out on the heavy bag later on. So, it's just one of those things that, we give a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more all the time. And it's gotten to the point where the kids of today don't realize how much we've given. I mean, do you know that in the 50s and 60s, they you would go into you would go into a grocery store and they would bring you the food that you would just, you would put in an order for your groceries. Part of that was because a lot of people grew their own food, or you would, trades or whatever with the farmers that grew food. and then you would, if you had to, you went to the grocery for, some pork, or you went to the grocery for whatever you couldn't trade or buy off of a local farmer, and all of that. And then but the grocery store wouldn't let you walk the aisles. It was a warehouse. And you would put in your order, or they would have, you would ask for this and that, and they would have people that pulled those orders for you, and normally kids that were at their first job, and they would pull that food for you. And if they pulled crappy food all the time, you didn't go there anymore, or you went, you complained to them. But customer service was something back then, because they knew at that time that they wouldn't have a job if not. Now, I mean, you go to the grocery store, you grab your own food, you scan it yourself, you walk out, and you know, as sad as this is, and as terrible of conundrum as this could be, I hate the customer service that you get at stores and restaurants anymore and stuff like that. So much so that I will go to your store, I will get my own stuff, I will walk around your store and pick up whatever I want, and then I will scan it myself and walk out. And hopefully, my job has been to try not to talk to anyone, because I don't wanna get upset about how terrible you talk to me about customer service, or asking you a question where you don't like, go to a grocery store and ask somebody where something is. Ask them where Velveeta is. Ask them where something that isn't your everyday item, your, rolled oats, or, organic peanut butter, or something like that, that isn't an item that you just see all day long. Ask them where the original sriracha is, and if your store even has that because of the supply chain issues. Um, you know, see if you can actually even get to something, because I I don't think in the last I don't think I've asked a question of anybody of where something is in a store in the last year or two. But I've had people who have asked employees where stuff is, and I just happen to hear them ask, and they tell them it's there or there, and I tell the person, "No, it's right over here. It's, walk over here and grab it." And, or, I've helped a few other husbands that I've seen walking around with the honey-do list, or the honey grocery list, and, find where they're going and what they're doing. Um, because honestly, over the last, 10, 15 years as a chef, I've been in the grocery probably more often than most people. And, you know, we've reduced down to trying to shop, once, maybe twice a week, setting up a menu and things of that nature, and just, working that out. But man, if you don't set up that kind of thing, just, $30 a day, $30 a day, 30, $40 a day, $50 a day, you know, you're spending 100, 200, $300 a week, and it just with nothing to show for it. And we buy a cow, you know, 400 or 500 bucks, but we've got a cow for a year, or we've got a cow for half a year, you know, and we spent $4, roughly $3 to $4 a pound on everything, steaks, burgers, everything. And you can't even buy burger anymore for under 6. And that's getting more expensive. I mean, buying a cow has gone up in price and stuff like that. But, you know, it is what it is, I guess. So the more, and that's what's crazy about the generations not know, if this generation knew that they could that's what used to happen, why do we put up with people treating us as terribly as they do? The only thing I can think of, the only thing I can say about AI being, helping out is that honestly, the less people who are working in a company, the more they have to pay those people, the more that you're going to see better customer service because they're paying a higher wage. And lesser people means there are less people that they have to hire, so they're going to be pickier on their hiring. So if you think $20 an hour minimum wage is going to help you get a job that you get paid $20 an hour, it's not. It's going to create a spot where you, because you have no equitable skills, are not going to be able to get a job, and those with the equitable skills are going to be able to get a job, and they're going to they're going to treat us better. You're going to get a little better customer service because you're not going to have 17, 12-year-old kid, 17-year-old kids treating you terribly. The last, just I've been saying that for the last 2-3 years at least. That like, I mean, they still laugh at me that I went into a local wing shop. Anybody who knows me has probably heard this story, but I went into a local wing shop, and I we had asked for these wings extra wet, and it was like extra crispy, extra wet. It was a whole thing. Um, my wife likes to special order her things, so she went through the list of all the stuff. Well, they came back. I said this doesn't look like extra wet. She goes, well, we don't do extra wet anymore. We just give you a side of the sauce. I said, okay, well, will you spin these wings, because this one doesn't even have any sauce on it. She's like, well, we don't do extra wet anymore. I said, you didn't even do regular wet, and I shook the wing at her, and she's like, well, no, I'm not going to spin those wings again because we don't do extra wet. I said, literally, you didn't even do the wing, you didn't even sauce the wings regularly, let alone, you know, giving me extra of anything. You didn't even do the standard job. And she couldn't understand that, I was upset that the wings weren't even sauced, let alone that, you know, she got hung up on the this is extra. And when did it come to the point where the customers, not that a customer's always right, but when a customer has a request, we're not going to fulfill that request? I don't know. So, just one of those, you know, odd rants that old people have, I guess. I guess I'm getting old. So, I just, I want to be treated like something. Yeah, but this isn't even an odd request. This is just as a person, even when I was a kid, and you looked up to those going to those restaurants that treated you better. There's a reason why people go to Emeril Lagasse's restaurant, Commander's Palace, at in New Orleans, and I mean, they get you like everybody's food is set at the table at the same time. Like, there's no like, oh, you're gonna get this and you're gonna get that, and no, like they come up to the table as an army and they set it at your place. They treat you better. Like no matter what, like we sat, we went to the one of the Delmonico's in New Orleans, and had probably one of the best steaks that I didn't cook in years. Like I still remember that ribeye. It was a great ribeye, and it there aren't too many steaks that I would put at the same level of the ones that I cook at home because for one, we buy prime beef. For two, we have an Angus style cow that we buy every year, and those steaks are better flavored than what you get at your local grocery store. And if we do buy steaks, 90% of the time we buy them at a specialty grocery store that has prime or has a prime Angus or has you know, a better style of beef. I don't go quite as far as Wagyu because I can't afford it most of the time. But when we do go beyond the cow that we buy, and to buy, or we have a hankering for steak that we're not going to thaw out, then we go to those places that have a better steak, and and so for a restaurant steak to be as good, that's something. And so we went there, and they had the group next to us was this like volunteer group, youth group, a bunch of kids and stuff, and they all were like pooling their money together. Oh, I've got $12, I got 20, I got 15, and they were all just kind of pulling their money together but they got treated just as well as my wife and I did. And that's as a young person, that's what you attain to. That's what you wanted to get to as you wanted to get to the level where you could go to those restaurants. In Dayton, you wanted to go to the Pine Club. You wanted to be able to go to, the places that were the exclusive places that you got better service and things of that nature. And, honestly, anymore, you go to those places and it's disappointing. Delmonico's wasn't. They still treat you like a king, like and you're spending money like you're a king. I mean, it's like two of us cost like $300, and maybe two of us because you know I like to try things, and we tried a few things on the menu, figuring we'd never come back, or we wouldn't. The next time we go to New Orleans, we'd try someplace else, or that it wouldn't just be like we're not going every year or whatever. And so, there's plenty of places in the world that we don't need to go to the same place or the same even city every year. Um, and if you're one of those people that does, then more power to you. Uh, great for going to those places. Everybody likes some kind of order and some stability, and honestly, that's why Applebee's and those places are still around because if you go to Applebee's in you know Troy, Ohio, and you go to Applebee's in Birmingham, Alabama, that most likely you're going to get the same semi okay service and those same frozen chicken fingers, and but what you're going to get. You're going to get disappointed. And so when you go to these nicer restaurants where you're still getting to, where you're now because they don't employ, Applebee's, honestly, back in the early to late 90s, employed a chef. They had a chef at every restaurant. They employed good cooks. They had, the chef was in charge of, making sure that all of your food when it came out hot, that all the recipes were done the right way. If there were specials, he created those specials, things of that nature. And then they had a restaurant manager so that the wait staff was trained, blah, blah, blah. Well, you can't, in this day and age, as a fast casual restaurant or as a casual restaurant, you can't employ a $50 to $75,000 a year chef and a $50 to $70,000 a year restaurant manager, and then shift managers and things of that nature. So they got rid of the chef. They can get any 17-year-old to create to microwave a bag of pasta and throw a steak on a flat top and throw some chicken fingers in the fryer with some french fries. You can get it, you don't have to spend, when the recipe book is a laminated binder with pictures of how to do everything, then you don't have to, you don't have to spend that extra money. But because you're not creating anything anymore, your restaurant is only going to be so good. That's why when I had a food truck, we created everything. Like we had when we first started, we actually had a baker baking our bread daily. We had, we ground the beef in the truck for our ribeye burgers. We took 6 months and created a bacon pork burger that was, we called it the Hoggenstein. It was basically an all bacon burger. We used a pork butt and turned it into bacon. 2 thin patties that felt like you were eating a burger but tasted like bacon. Crispy, juicy burgers. But we created that. And so that's why we were known as one of the best burgers in Dayton out of a food truck. Not even, we didn't have a brick and mortar. We didn't, we created the food that came out of our truck. We had blue plate special. We had, bluefin, bluefin fish and, our own fish and chips. We did, Hawaiian fish tacos. Our style, we didn't have any gloopy fried fish. We, blackened the fish and threw a Hawaiian salsa on it with some feta cheese even. So, if you're not creating something, it's going to be mediocre. And honestly, my motto has always been you can either be the best or you can be the cheapest. But if you're in between, you're working on going out of business. That's how it is. And so that's honestly where we're at with a lot of different companies. Walmart decided to be the cheapest. Other companies in between, you see them struggling. So that brings me to we talked a couple months, I think a month and a half ago or so back about the James Beard Awards, and they've just released their 2024 restaurant and chef finalists. So outstanding restaurateur, you've got a few good ones. I'm gonna try to get to the one in Detroit, Baobab Fair. It's I'm not even gonna make it's Mamba Hamasi and Nadia Jimber. So I know I killed at least one or two of those names in there. You've got Quinn Vi and Yinvi Pham. They're at Faux Back Sup Shop in Seattle, Washington. Chris Viad is in Milford, New Hampshire. You got Hollis Wells Silverman. Has a ton of restaurants in Washington D.C. The Duck, the Peach, or the Duck and the Peach, La Colina, the Wells, and others. Really great restaurateur, Erica Whitaker and Kelly Whitaker. They're Ide Est Hospitality Group. They have the Wolf's Taylor, Bruto, Basta, and others in Boulder, Colorado. So those are your finalists. You got 5 finalists. Your outstanding chef finalists are Sarah Minnick out of Oregon for her restaurant Lovely's 50/50. Almost sounds like a horse in a horse race. Lovely's 50/50 going around the far turn. Dean Neff from Seabird in Wilmington, North Carolina. You got Michael Raffiti for Albee in Washington, D.C. Renee Touponce in Port of Call for the Port of Call in Mystic, Connecticut. I think I've actually eaten at their restaurant. And you've got David Yerger for Lucia in Dallas, Texas. So those are your outstanding chef, and then your outstanding restaurant. You've got the Compound in Santa Fe, New Mexico. You've got Convenience West in Marfa, Texas. You got Lang Bon in Portland, Oregon. Mixedly in San Antonio, Texas, and Vestige in Ocean Spring, Mississippi, or Missouri. And so with that, basically with these are going to be the best of the best, the ones that you see. Like if you follow the James Beard Awards, these are the national James Beard Awards. So you'll still have, some of the, different areas and stuff like that will have them. But if you go on Eater, you'll find this list. You've got emerging chefs. Let's see if I know anybody. Masako Morishita at Perry's in Washington D.C. A lot of Washington D.C. places. Not as many New York City places as there used to be. But you got Farayal Abdullahi, something like that, at Have and Mar in New York City. Janet Becerra at Panchita in Seattle, Washington. You got one in Charleston called Cultura from Nico Galanin. Best restaurants. There's about 10 of them on this list, and you got Bar Baqueto at Wattsburg, Washington. Barb's Barbecue in Lockhart, Texas. Chez Noir at Camel by the Sea in California. Comfort Kitchen in Dorchester, Massachusetts. That's a pretty popular one that I've been around before. Dakar Nola in New Orleans. Hayward in McMinnville, Oregon. Kea in Orlando, Florida. You got Kisser, Nashville, Tennessee. Oro by Nixta in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And Shan in Bozeman, Montana. Those are your best new restaurant nominees. Outstanding bakeries. You've got the Burke Bakehouse in Albuquerque. Gusto Bread in Long Island. Jinju Pastries in Portland. Mel the Bakery in Hudson, New York, and which I think he's on the list a lot, or Meld Bakery is on the list a lot. Zoo Bakery in Portland, Maine. You got the outstanding pastry chefs, Susan Bay, Jesus Brazen, and Manuel Brazen. Atsuko Fujimoto and the Broslins are at Caracas Bakery in Miami, Florida. Norimoto Bakery is Fujimoto's in Portland, Maine. Crystal Kaz at Valentine in Phoenix. And Anna Posey in Elski, Chicago, Illinois. And then you've got you got outstanding hospitality. See, these are the places that you want to still go to, that you don't mind, spending $100 a plate, or you don't mind spending because you know you're going to be treated right. So Lula Cafe in Chicago is a normally on the list of top restaurants. Melba's in New York City. Woodford Food and Beverage in Portland, Maine. Then you got Crawford and Son in Raleigh, North Carolina. Gemma is always on the list in Dallas, Texas. Outstanding wine and other beverage programs. Lula Drake Wine Parlor in Columbia. You got the Morris in San Francisco. Strong Water, Anaheim. Tail Up Goat in Washington, D.C. Waxlights Bar, Bar Oven in Buffalo, New York. And then your outstanding bar is Bar Hill Cocktails in Montpelier, Vermont. Clavel Macelleria in Baltimore. Jewel of the South in New Orleans. La Ramblas in Brownsville, Texas, and Pacific Cocktail Haven in San Francisco. So this is kind of why they do your, kind of different areas for some of these things also, is you can kind of see a lot of them in Texas. Not one of them in Ohio, which unfortunately we are not considered the food mecca of the United States, but there's still some good chefs in Ohio. I enjoy some decent food around us, and if I don't enjoy decent food around us, it's my fault because I'm not making it myself. So, but you got your best chefs for the California region is Jeff Davis, Rogelio Garcia. These are all California. Lord Maynor, Lara, Tara Monsod, and Billy Ngo from Sacramento. Best chefs, Great Lakes, which is the Ohio region. You got Jose Salazar from Mitas in Cincinnati. I've been to that place. It's really good. Vinny Camino, Cordelia in Cleveland. You got Sujan Sarkar from Indiana in Chicago. Hajime Soto from Soze in Clawson, Michigan. And Jenner Tomaska from SMA in Chicago also. Mid-Atlantic, let's see if anybody pops off. Harley Pete from Basse Rouge in Easton, Maryland. Tony Conti from Inferno Pizzeria in Napolitano, Darnestown, Maryland. Then you got Best Chef Midwest. You got Rob Connolly from Bulrush, St. Louis. Ann Ahmad Kaluna from Kaluna in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Christina Gwynn from Hi in Minneapolis. A couple of Minneapolises out of there. Tim Nicholson from the Boiler Room in Omaha. Let's see. Yeah, mountain region. You got Nick Zilko from Urban Hill in Salt Lake. And Penelope Wong from Yun Wonton in Denver, which is a big one. You got Brandon Cunningham from Social House in Green Knoll, Montana. Best Chef New York State. You got Charlie Mitchell. Clover Hill from Brooklyn. Chris Mauricio from Harana Market in Accord. At Sushi Kono from Kono in New York. Best Chef Northeast. Tallulah, Connor Dennehy out of Tallulah, Cambridge, Massachusetts. That's a big one. I mean, obviously, all of these restaurants are big ones, but these are ones that I've either gone to or I've put on the list that when I'm in that area, that's those are places I want to go to. So just a lot of cool places if you want to get off the beaten path and get away from kind of the guys grocery games places or the guys diners, drive-ins, and dives places. You want to spend a little bit more money. Some of these places are going to be fairly pricey, but this list is on Eater. Look up James Beard Restaurant Chef's Finalists, and you should be able to find it. Yeah, pretty great little list here. Probably going to try to hit the one in Orlando because I saw there was one from Orlando that was on the list. When I go on vacation to Orlando this year, taking the Tiny to Orlando. But so looks like Stefan Diggs went to Houston Texans for a 2025 second round draft pick. I wonder sounds like the Bills are making some space. In science and technology, pig kidney transplant recipient discharged from the hospital 2 weeks after procedure. Success is a key advance in field of cross-species transplant. So we've talked about this, how they were genetically modifying some of these pigs so that they didn't have certain sugar that has caused the relapse or the rejection of the kidneys, and that they had kept a cadaver alive with a kidney for so many weeks or so many months or something like that. And then this other guy, he was so far down on the list, he wasn't going to get a kidney. He was out of the age limit or whatever. And they kept him alive for like 16 days or six more weeks till it rejected. This guy, Rick Slayman, 62, will continue his recovery at home. So leaving the hospital today with one of the cleanest bills of health I've had in a long time. Is one I wished would come for many years now. it's a reality, and he's one of the happiest moments of his life," said Slayman. He went on to thank the doctors, nurses who cared for him. The care he received was exceptional. But he's basically allowed to go home. He received the transplant March 21st, and basically at the time he was living with end-stage kidney disease, along with type 2 diabetes and hypertension. He received a human kidney transplant back in 2018, but it started failing 5 years later. And that's what I think. I think part of why this may be why this is groundbreaking is that, even if you do get a kidney transplant from whoever, your body conditions that killed the last kidney are still there. Like, there may be an enzyme, there may be a something, you may have some kind of disease or some kind of bacteria or something that, your kidneys cannot function the right way. And it could be the kidneys themselves, but it could be this otherwise, some other genetic issue that your kidneys can't keep up, or they can't continue to control what's going on. And so with that, um, you're just, you can't take, your kidneys don't work the way they're supposed to. And so even if you get another human kidney, you know, this is you could you still could kill that new kidney off. I have a cousin that's had a lot of issues with kidneys, and she's had multiple kidney replacements because of, the first one didn't, it lasted for so many years, and then it ended up failing. And so then, get back on the list and finally get another one. And, so it's just, it seems like it's a body part, that eventually will fail based on either genetics or issues that you have that are underlying. So basically they're obviously they're going to watch it, but so far his recovery has been progressing, which is good and is better than the last few that we've seen. And they've been, like I said, they've been genetically modifying these the hospital said the kidney was donated by eGenesis in Cambridge and was genetically edited to remove any harmful pig genes um, that could cause it to reject. So, um, something I've been kind of watching, not just because of the family ties, but just because it is a medical deal where it's just one more thing that we could use out of pigs or out of livestock, that if this is something that works, you know this now becomes a viable option for for people who are safer. So it is not a glamorous or exciting or even good time to when you're waiting on a kidney. It's just yeah, it's a pain, it's a hassle. You got to go in for dialysis at least once a day, or you're going to poison yourself and things of that nature. So you take for granted being able to just even to pee, you know, and these people are having troubles doing any of that stuff. So let's see if we can find us a little lighter story. So I found an article that says what it's like to live inside the loneliest house in the world. So basically, this house is on an Icelandic island, a remote Icelandic island, and it was so there's a fascinating legend associated with it from its supposed purchase by the singer Bjork to rumors that a survivalist billionaire built it in preparation for a zombie apocalypse. So basically, it's just this house on an island all by itself. So another rumor claims that the cottage was built by the billionaire as a bunker to survive a zombie attack. Others have claimed the house does not exist at all, and instead images of it are photoshopped or AI creations. In fact, the truth behind the house is a little less exciting. The island was home to sheep farming families until the 1930s when it was deserted. Its remoteness, harsh climate led them to look for more inviting pastures. In the 1950s, the famous White House was built as a hunting lodge for puffins. Puffin hunting is a tradition with deep roots in Iceland, but it is in danger of disappearing in face of wildlife protection laws, much like the house itself. There's no water or electricity, but it does have a sauna. So you're good. So, mystery solved, Puffin House. Which, have you seen how they hunt puffins? I mean, as much as it's in danger of going away, it's also just a dangerous way. Like, you stand off the edge and you throw like a long pole with a butterfly net at the end to try to like swoop in and catch these puffins as they're flying off of the ledge and stuff. But while you're doing that, you're still hanging over the ledge of a cliff, and probably 40, 50 feet at least over the edge of the water, craggly rocks at the bottom. You know, pretty much instant death if you were to fall. Um, yeah. So, I guess we got a big solar eclipse coming through Ohio and some other places, Michigan and stuff like that, as not too far from us. I think we talked about it before. Probably just look out at my house instead of try to drive to the epicenter, which is be only about 20 minutes, but it just seems like more hassle than I need. Plus, people are going crazy. They're renting houses. They're renting 50-foot or 10-foot parking spots where you can either put a camper, park a car, so that you can look up at the sun, and which is what they tell you not to do as a kid. Don't ever look up at the sun because you'll go blind. But whatever. Look up at the sun, all you need. So, well, I think without the comic relief of the other guys, uh, the things that I learned today, I just checked out some restaurants. Uh, Customer service is probably dead until AI takes over and we have less employees. Um, so just keep on cooking for yourself. Buy your cow. It will be uh, helpful if the zombies come back, and you'll just enjoy the customer service of making your own steak better. Anyhow, so get on our website, support us in the free way by liking and sharing. Give us those little heart things. Give us that thumbs up emoji wherever you can. Wherever you listen to your podcast, we are live on, or we're podcasting on just about everywhere. About ready to change over to YouTube from Google Podcasts. And, if you listen on that, we'll be there for you there. So just get our podcast wherever you get your podcast. And just make sure that you give us a 1 or 5-star review, whether you like us or you hate us. And we'll put you in for a t-shirt. Get you a Why I'm Angry t-shirt. And you can support or burn it, whether you like us or hate us. So get yourself in for that. We'll get you sent out, or get you in the raffle to get sent out a t-shirt. Obviously, if you're the only one for that month, boom, you got it. So get on there, help us out. Continue to support the Why I'm Angry podcast any way you can, and we will continue to be angry and get the word out and try to keep you thinking on your toes. So get out there, spread the angry word. We love you guys. Remember to follow, like, and share the Why I'm Angry podcast across all social media platforms and anywhere you get your podcast. The Why I'm Angry podcast ends now.